This video is a cooperative effort of the Trace Center, the Division of Information Technology, and the Instructional Media Development Center, all located on the Madison campus of the University of Wisconsin.
Hello, my name is Neil Ewers, and I work for the Trace Research and Development Center. One of my many jobs here is to provide information that will help people design websites that work well for people who are blind and use screen readers to access the web. The problems and solutions discussed in this video focus specifically on enhancing web pages for screen reader users. However, these enhancements also benefit others, including those who use alternative browsing devices such as web-enabled cell phones and Palm Pilots. People who use text-only browsers, have slow modems, or turn off their images so pages load faster also benefit. Exactly what is a screen reader?
A screen reader speaks the text on the page. It can also present this text via a braille display, but it cannot present or interpret images. It can only present one word at a time. So, unlike a sighted user who can see the entire screen, the screen reader user hears a string of text. This makes it very difficult to get an overall idea of both content and page layout.
We'll be using a number of screen readers in this video. We'll be exploring a few simple things that people can do to make their websites accessible to screen reader users, as well as a variety of emerging technologies. Let's use Internet Explorer to open an example page we created for a fictional company called Exclamation Software. We didn't want to pick on specific companies with problem websites, so we created pages for this video that illustrate some of the problems and solutions we have found on the web. If you were sitting here beside me, you would be able to describe what you see on the screen. But listen to what the screen reader says when I try to read the information.
Page has 3 links.
Well, that's not very helpful, but I can do 2 quick things to see if there's information on the page. First, let me arrow down and read any information that might be there.
Blank, blank, blank.
Well, that certainly sounds like a page with no information to me. The second thing I can do is to tab to links. My screen reader told me that there were 3 links on the page. So let's see if I can tab to those links.
Tab, tab, tab.
If there are links here, that must certainly mean that there's information on the page, but I sure can't read it. Without any information, I can't even be sure I'm on the right page. While seemingly blank pages like this can be frustrating for screen reader users, perhaps more frustrating are pages that make little or no sense at all. Let's try opening another page.
Page has 3 links. Graphic spacer, graphic spacer, graphic 1,234,393.gif.
Well, there's definitely information here, but my screen reader is reading gibberish. When I find pages like this, I have to give up. The information just doesn't make any sense. Fortunately, it doesn't take much work to make this site completely accessible. In fact, it's quite easy to do. You just have to add alt text. Short for alternative text, alt text is simply a way to provide text equivalents to non-text elements on a page. This includes images, graphical representations of text, including symbols, image map regions, animations, scripts, and images used as list bullets, spacers, graphical buttons, etc. Let's discover how easy it is to add alt text. A good way for page authors to evaluate the alt text that has been added is to turn images off. As you can see, when you turn images back on, the addition of the alt text has no effect on the final appearance of the page. Now that we've added alt text, let's read this page again.
Page has 3 links. Graphic exclamation software logo. Link English. Link Spanish. Link German.
Now that's much better. This page obviously uses alt text. Without it, I might as well have been reading in Spanish or German. Although including alt text is an essential part of building accessible sites, what that alt text says is equally important. As we heard earlier, what screen readers find on the page can sometimes make very little sense. Let me load a new page, and I'll show you what I mean.
Loading page. Load done. Link question mark inside blue box link icon with 4 numbers, and 4 lines link stylized right arrow screen readers, and the web flexible content for an increasingly diverse audience.
Once again, this information is not very helpful. The icons provide sighted users with some clues about the function of the buttons, but what would you guess these buttons would do if you were blind and heard them announced by the screen reader?
Link question mark inside blue box link icon.
There are some important things to remember when you're applying alt text in this kind of example. The function of a button is more important than what it looks like. So, in this example, the alt text should not say stylized right arrow. When we have the screen reader read the corrected page, it says
link help. Link table of contents. Visited link next slide.
Now these buttons give me the information I need. Another thing to consider is the clarity and length of the alt text. It's most helpful when what's being described is stated as clearly and concisely as possible. As alt text gets longer, it could actually become more confusing or take more time than it is helpful. One solution in these cases is the use of D-links for longer descriptions when they're needed. A D-link is used to provide an in-depth description of something the author of the page wants to include more details about. So the alt text gives you a quick description of the image's function. The D-link gives you a longer description if you need it. Let me load a page and show you what I mean by a D-link.
Loading page. Load done. Sales exclamation software. Sales by category. Link D.
As I read this page, you heard my screen reader say D-link. When I hear that, I know that there's a longer description of this image I can read. Let's see what's in this particular D-link description.
Link D. Enter. Page has 1 heading and 1 link. Sales chart descriptive text version. The pie chart illustrates a categorical breakdown of the software sold by exclamation in 2001. Total sales reached $1.2 million in the following categories: 36% communications, 25% productivity, 24% entertainment, 13% multimedia. Link return to sales page.
Now this is nice information to have, and because it was done as a D-link and not as alt text, I can choose to read it or ignore it. One other important thing to remember about making web pages accessible is that in most instances, accessibility enhancements don't change the appearance of the page. The alt text that we've added can only be seen when you turn off images in the browser. And with the D-link, there is only a small, very unobtrusive D on the graphical page. But this is the only instance where the graphical version of the page will be altered. Older screen readers and some other devices only render the alt text when images are not loaded. So, the best way to know how effective your alt text really is to turn off images in the browser, or view your pages with a text-only browser such as links, and see if you get all the information you want people to know about when they visit your site. In short, if you use alt text, everybody wins. One simple thing that can be done to make a page more accessible is to use header tags correctly. Because screen readers only read one word at a time, it's really difficult to get a quick overview of the content of the page. You can greatly help with this by using well-thought-out headers that have been appropriately marked. Headers allow users to orient themselves to and be informed about the organization and structure of a page. One rule of thumb to follow as a web author is to make sure your headers make sense when read out of context. Let me load a page and show you what I mean. I want to purchase a book called A Painted House from an online bookstore. Again, because we didn't want to pick on actual inaccessible sites, we created a fictitious page. If the headers are marked, I can bring up a list of headers which I can peruse to get an idea of the major sections of the page. You can see them because they visually stand out on the page. So let's see how many headers are on this page.
No headings found in document.
Okay, that's not very helpful. I can see that it'll take me a very long time to find this book. For you, it will be much easier because the page is visually broken into several sections and headers are defined by characteristics like font size, bold text, and white space around various sections of the page. But imagine a web page without these characteristics. All you would normally have to do is to quickly glance down the page and find the fiction section. But header tags aren't being used on this page. As a result, my screen reader can't find them. And now that we've visually taken them away, neither can you. If my screen reader can't find headers on the page, there are only two ways I can get an overview of the information. I can read every word on the page.
Eclipse Books Top Sellers. Eclipse Books Link Help. Link Order. Link Search. Link Contact. Quick Links. Link Community Info. Link What's New. Link Readers Picks. Link Award Winners. Link Library Cards. Top Sellers List. Each week we poll our readers about their favorites and publish the top 6 selections in various categories. See what our readers had to say this week.
This could take a very long time, and I still haven't found the book I want. The other thing I could do is to tab to all the links on the page.
Tab Help Link. Tab Order Link. Tab Search Link. Tab Contact Link. Tab Community Info Link. Tab What's New Link. Tab Readers Picks Link. Tab Award Winners Link. Tab Library Cards Link. Tab M.R. Brown Canoe Link. Tab
As you can see, this is not a very satisfactory way to do it, because I'm not really getting a very clear idea about the page layout. It's actually a very problematic way to go about looking at the page, because if I'm simply tabbing to links, I can cross into the links associated with the next header without knowing it. This can get really confusing, and I still haven't found my book. If this page had used the correct markup for headers, I would not have had to tab at all. I could have simply gone to the fiction header and easily found my book. So let's load a version of the same page that's been marked up correctly. Notice that the visual effect has been maintained. I'll bring up the header list.
Top Sellers List 1.
2 of 8.
Children's 2.
3 of 8.
Nonfiction 2.
4 of 8.
Parenting 2.
5 of 8.
Fiction 2.
6 of 8.
Ah, there's the fiction section. I know my book is in this section, so I'll press enter on the header and the screen reader will skip directly to it. I can then arrow down to the book titles under this heading.
Link A Painted House.
And there's the book I want. I can actually get there more quickly. While the header list is on the screen, I can press the first letter of the header I want, and I'll be taken directly to that header.
F. Fiction 2.
6 of 8.
What's also nice is that the screen reader will announce each header as I arrow across it.
Heading Level 1. Top Sellers List. Blank. Each week we poll our readers about their favorites and publish the top 6 selections in various categories. See what our readers had to say this week. Blank. Heading Level 2. Children's.
Hearing the announcement of each header as I'm reading the other information on the page really helps me understand how all the information is laid out. Another nice thing about navigating the headers on the page is that the screen reader user can go directly to the first header and thus skip all the unwanted information, which may not need to be read at all. In the past, I've had to wade through a lot of navigation and advertising information in order to get to the meat of the page. Even on this page, there's information at the top that I really don't want to take the time to read. This is especially true when I've become familiar with the site. But if the page has headers, I can skip directly to them by doing one of two things. I can press a keystroke to go to the first header on the page,
Top sellers list level 1.
or, as I demonstrated earlier, I can bring up the header list and select any header I want. This is a real time saver for me and other screen reader users. In summary, a well-organized page that uses header tags and other website guidelines supported by the W3C benefits screen reader users as well as people who use alternative browsing devices such as cell phones, Palm Pilots, and text-only browsers. In other words, everyone will have a more positive experience when they visit your pages. The nice thing is, you don't have to make your site unattractive in order to give everyone that kind of quality experience. Thank you for taking the time to learn about web accessibility. Happy web developing.